Hi, my name is Angie Strong, and my dad still has an iPod. He's an old man, it's okay. He has 7,300 songs on his iPod, and every single one of them is a song by the Grateful Dead, all 7,300. And he is a person who tells us at every occasion that all of the music at his funeral must be Grateful Dead. Okay, sure, Dad. On a more serious note, he also talks about how he wants to be cremated, for example, and that's another preference that certainly, when the time comes, we're going to respect that and the Grateful Dead music. Overall, both our legal system and just our culture as a whole place a great importance on respecting people's wishes after death. Both in the case of legal issues like a will and in less formalized preferences like Grateful Dead music and cremation. Now, some person, not anybody in this room, but somebody could argue it doesn't really matter because once you're dead and who cares? Literally, why do we respect people's wishes after they're dead? Because they're not here to be upset about it. It's a reasonable argument, which we just don't as a culture believe. We don't feel that way because even though we want to give them the peace of mind of knowing that we're going to take care of them and respect their wishes after they're dead. And the whole culture is founded on that premise of understanding that once you're dead, you can't do anything anymore, and it's up to everybody else who's left behind to take care of those things for you. We want our loved ones to have peace of mind, and honestly, we want to have our own peace of mind because we all have our own preferences of what's going to happen when we die, and the only way that we can kind of guarantee that happens for us is if we have this whole culture and framework that respects people's wishes after they're dead. And if we have this strong moral imperative about respecting people's preferences, then we can kind of have our own peace of mind to know that when our time comes, that's just baked into things. There are some cases, as people have testified, that it is a little bit trickier to make sure that a person's wishes are respected, and this particular piece of legislation is designed to provide support in some of those cases. So as Jay and others have testified, the documentation for a trans person can be messy. My girlfriend, who's a trans woman, was very easily able to change her gender marker on her passport thanks to regulations that were put in place by Secretary Clinton. But her birth certificate was almost impossible to change because she's from Pennsylvania, and they're crazy down there. So, if you have this bill in place and you looked at something like that where you had one piece of the birth certificate that says one thing and something else like a passport that says another thing, this gives guidance. As the testimony from the funeral director said, that's something that people need. They just need the guidance and the coverage or the backup to do that. They don't want to just go rogue and get in trouble with the state for putting the wrong thing. But if the legislation's there that says, yes, you're allowed to ignore the birth certificate because the passport was changed more recently, then they can feel comfortable knowing that they can simultaneously respect the person's wishes and not get in any trouble for going rogue. Now I've really lost my place. Okay. Another thing, again, although we do overall have a very strong taboo about disrespecting people's wishes and we try to follow them, there are unfortunately cases that people have testified in this room because just right now there's so much ignorance and hatred about being transgender among some people that there are cases where the next of kin might disrespect a person's preferences, as taboo as that is. I desperately hope that ignorance and hatred will go away soon, but until then, this bill also offers guidance for making sure that those people's wishes are respected as well. Most people, not people who have heard the testimony that we're presenting here today, but maybe the other people who had to go home early, might look at this bill and say, of all the things in the world to get worked up about post-death, I could see being worked up about cremation versus burial, that's a big deal, but how could somebody really care about a death certificate, which is boring, and it's just a gender marker, and it's a piece of paper, what does it matter? Obviously, as you've heard from people today, when your life is a constant struggle for recognition and acceptance, both legally and socially, just keep in mind the testimony of the people here today who are transgender. Talk to the transgender people in your life. Reach out to your trans constituents. When you listen to their stories of their struggle for recognition, you'll understand very clearly why something as stupid as a tiny little letter on a really boring document can have so much importance. Finally, I just want to say something about this bill itself. Last year we were in HEW advocating for the conversion therapy ban. That was a very exciting and attention-grabbing bill. Protecting children from abuse, especially in a climate where the Federal Department of Education was abandoning them, was very exciting, and people got worked up. I don't know whether there's any competition behind the scenes. I will point out that Chairman McNamara made like a mind-blowing speech when he passed that bill out of committee, and another amazing speech during the floor vote. So hopefully Chairman Keeble will get to see something just like a barn burner from you.
Sounds like a dare, right?
Okay, I'm really excited.
The gauntlet's been thrown down.
You can see Chairman McNamara's
Chairman
speeches.
McNamara's his words are his thing, so I don't know.
I'm sure that we're all
if I
looking
can go
forward
toe-to-toe with
to
them,
what you come up with when the time comes. But anyway, the point is that with that bill, everyone was jumping up to vote for it, and Governor Raimondo had like the full-on signing ceremony with all the people, and it was on national news, and I can see that this bill is a little bit less exciting. It's about death, and it's like about paperwork, and that can kind of be a dry subject, and I think that it would be easy to just kind of feel that with so many other important legislative priorities, like how can you really muster up that much enthusiasm or fight for something like this? And I want to say that in a way, dead people are like the most vulnerable population because they can't even fight for themselves. They absolutely rely on us to do it for them. They can't be here, they can't testify, they can't ask people or beg people or try to make anything happen. They rely on all of us to make these things happen for them. And that's an incredible amount of trust that they place in us. And in order to make sure that they have that peace of mind, it's really important that we have to take the active role in fighting for something that they can no longer do. So I really encourage everyone to consider why this bill should be a priority. Thank you so much.